Apocalyptic literature operates through a paradox. It relies on surreal symbolism, like four horses galloping through heavy mist, yet claims to predict precise earthly realities. This analysis focuses on an exegetical framework that defines chapters 4 through 6 as a historical redemptive blueprint. The framework maps the opening of the first 6 seals to a continuous timeline of geopolitical, climatic, and epidemiological crises spanning from 1096 CE to 1948. This model identifies these catastrophes as teleological push factors. They are interpreted as systemic pressures used to displace the Jewish diaspora over several centuries. By testing this data mapping, we can observe how specific theological models attempt to categorize the brutal variables of human history. Revelation chapters 4 and 5 establish the foundational axioms of this model, the heavenly throne room and the 7-sealed scroll, which functions as the cosmic blueprint for judgment. This creates an authorization paradox. The text asserts that no entity in the universe possesses the moral clearance required to execute this blueprint. In this hierarchy, the pathway to the scroll is blocked. Clearance is only granted to the slain lamb, representing the text's claim that ultimate cosmic authority is rooted in substitutionary sacrifice. Brute force does not grant this jurisdiction. This sacrificial prerequisite delegates final jurisdiction to the lamb, providing necessary authorization to open the seals. In this model, cosmic authority is a rigid, rule-based system. It acts as the required engine for all subsequent historical disasters recorded in the timeline. The framework maps the first seal to 1096 CE, corresponding to Crusader military expansion. These campaigns caused massive civilian casualties, specifically slaughtering Jewish populations across the Rhineland. Advancing to the 13th century, the model maps the second seal to the Mongol Empire's westward expansion. The invincible Mongol threat created a state of mass psychological crisis across Europe. This panic fueled a conspiracy theory. The Jewish diaspora was framed as a fifth column smuggling weapons to the Mongols, triggering systemic riots in Frankfurt. Geopolitical crises in this framework systematically produce localized, targeted violence. This acts as a psychological release valve for a terrified populace. This temperature graph shows a 2 degrees Celsius drop in the early 14th century, correlating the Little Ice Age with the third seal. This triggered the Great Famine of 1315. The resulting hyperinflation of staple grains aligns with the biblical text's precise economic scarcity. Societal starvation and the rise of flagellant movements led to escalated economic attacks on Jewish communities. The fourth seal, the pale horse representing death, directly maps to the devastating Black Death pandemic between 1347 and 1353. During this period, plague, famine, and war dropped the global population from 450 million to 350 million. This decline represents a loss of exactly 1/4 of the Earth's population, matching the specific claim recorded in the fourth seal. During this die-off, the scapegoat mechanism accelerated. Baseless well-poisoning accusations caused massacres in Strasbourg and Mainz. In this model, sudden climate shifts and plagues function as compound multipliers. They weaken societal stability and weaponize public terror against minorities. The fifth seal, featuring souls under the altar crying for justice, is mapped to the Protestant Reformation spanning the 14th to 16th centuries. The model identifies Wycliffe, Luther, and Calvin as primary nodes of this schism, producing many martyrs. But frustration over the Jewish community's refusal to convert resulted in religious antisemitism. This theological animosity later mutated into racial antisemitism, weaponized by the 20th century Nazi regime. The model concludes that theological schisms intended to restore scriptural authority unintentionally provided the ideological bedrock for modern industrial-scale genocide. All previous timelines and crisis nodes funnel into a single point, 1948. This model argues that centuries of warfare, plague, and systemic persecution were not arbitrary accidents. These catastrophes are viewed as intense pressure used to systematically force the scattered Israelites out of Europe. This 900-year teleological push reached its climax with the 1948 establishment of the State of Israel. Against overwhelming demographic odds, the model highlights the realization of this physical restoration. The 1948 restoration acts as the specific trigger mechanism for the final apocalypse. The model maps the sixth seal, a massive global earthquake, to a future or near contemporary endpoint occurring precisely after 1948. This event is triggered by an axis of nations attempting to invade and destroy the restored nation. The model treats this global earthquake as a literal physical intervention to destroy the invading alliance and protect the restored nation. This exegetical model functions by transforming the Book of Revelation from a mystical allegory into a rigid, data-responsive philosophy of human history.